Issue on the happy world of 5FM radio, bringing you hot, smoldering topics on a weekly basis. Your participation is important.
Good morning and welcome to yet another edition of the Burning Issue here on the happy world of 5FM radio on 89.9 in Lusaka and the surrounding areas. Remember, we are not only live on 5FM, we are also live on Tuta FM radio, that is in Mansa, covering the rest of Luapula province, that is on 90.7 FM. And we are also live on Spice FM in Kabwe, covering Central Province, that is on 91.1 FM. And we're grateful that you found time to tune in and be a part of the conversation today. And later on in the course of the program, I will invite you, our listeners, to call in and interact with our. And of course, I'm your host, Zachariah Banda. Now, our guest this morning is Mr. Watson Lumba, who is Indeni Petroleum Board Chairperson, and he is an economist at the same time. Welcome, sir. Always a pleasure to have you.
Always a pleasure to be here, Zach, and good morning, listeners.
We haven't spoken in a long time, I must say, and a long time, I mean, it should be over a year ago when we last spoke and when we last hosted you. And last time when we spoke quite a lot of things. We will actually be revisiting some of the conversation we had then, just to see where we are, especially with the fact that at the time when we were talking, Indeni was undergoing through some, changes, restructuring, and of course, we needed again to catch up on that this morning, or we'll catch up on that and just to see where we are. But also, we'll generally talk about the economy itself, and especially that you are board chair of Indeni, which is so much a petroleum company of whose products from Indeni are the drivers of the economy. And so very, very key that we have that conversation. Otherwise, we are grateful that you are here. Let's start with the fact that the last time we spoke, like I earlier said, Indeni was undergoing restructuring.
Yes.
Where are we?
Thank you very much. I don't know if you allow me to recap
Yes.
for the purpose of our listeners.
Right.
What's the Indeni journey? Indeni from a refinery where we are getting crude, which is basically a commingled stuff. When we say crude, basically it wasn't like the crude from the extracted source and straight away pushed into Indeni. It was actually from when Indeni was designed. It was designed to process a commingled stuff. What is that commingled stuff? I'm sure it's finished petrol. People should know that. Finished petrol, finished diesel, finished jet fuel, finished kerosene, and other maybe byproducts like which will remain. When those are finished, then they pack them up together as one through the chemical processes, and they push it in the Tazama pipeline. When it comes to Indeni, what Indeni was doing now to put them back to their original state. Remember, this is already processed petrol, processed diesel, processed what? Then they mix them together in a chemical reaction where it is allowed to get back to their original status. So Indeni was doing that. Now, obviously, from that point, you realize that when petrol is extracted and then you commingle it with others, that's also an expense. And then you come and process it back to their original state. Basically, that was what was happening. Now, government made a position where now that should stop, because even the commingled stuff itself was expensive. And then you are not getting from the refinery, you are getting from middlemen, from traders who do that. Obviously, they also put a markup. So that's what we are doing. So until 2019, when Indeni was on partial closure, which led into government making a position that Indeni should now be transformed into an OMC. That's an oil marketing company, just like BP, or sorry, we don't have BP. Puma, Mount Meru, Indeni should do that, but on a wholesale operation.
Okay.
So having made that position now, you remember Indeni has got that infrastructure, and the pipeline, the Tazama pipeline, was made to transport that commingled stuff. So whilst Indeni could be an OMC, Indeni should be using the pipeline to bring in products. So there was a time lag from that, when that point was made, to the point where the pipeline can be made to transport those things, because it needed to be cleaned up and configured now to transport finished diesel. And now that pipeline can only transport one product. So after having made that, in the process, Indeni, when it was made like that, it meant a lot of staff who were working on the refinery were not needed. So therefore, people were declared redundant, and everyone at Indeni was declared redundant. At the time we picked over the board, which I'm privileged to be part of as board chairman, at the time we picked it up, it was basically like everyone at a point was declared redundant. But then we needed to also now look at who is going to work with us in a new environment. Remember, Indeni was just processing or putting back the product to their original refined process, and then they do that and they give it back to the government, and government pays Indeni the processing fee, and that's how excuse me, that's how Indeni was working. So they never had the opportunity to go into an OMC to sell. So basically, they were just processing, give government pays them. And they were the only one doing that. Now, Indeni has to compete. It has to go into the open market, where it has to source products, transport, and now sell at a wholesale price. Indeni, at the moment, we do not have like retail or what we call filling stations. So basically, Indeni had to start as an wholesale. Now, when that happened, where government made that decision, and we now have to wait for government to release money to pay the workers, because we couldn't take them on until that was done. By and by, government released the money. It was quite a big, colossal sum of money. It was about, if my memory serves me right, 536,000 million kwacha, slightly over $500 million kwacha rebased. So which is quite a colossal sum of money. So when everyone was paid at Indeni, now we needed to select who will be part of the new company. Indeni at that time had over 300 workers. From our plan, we only needed about 150 somewhere there, if at full throttle. So we started with a small staff of about 100 and slightly below 100, or about 100. But again, you realize that equipment, that machinery, which is at Indeni, it can be hazardous. So there's supposed to be a process of care and maintenance. So as part of getting Indeni go into an OMC, Indeni has also to do care and maintenance of that plant which is there. It can't just be left like that. So whilst Indeni is trying to set itself as an oil marketing company, it also has to continue maintaining the asset, which is under care and maintenance. So there's those two roles. And then Indeni needed money to start operating, and it needed access to the pipeline to bring in products. Now, the pipeline, even though it's owned by the Zambian government and the Tanzanian government, though the Zambian government is the majority shareholder in the pipeline, The pipeline was put not as exclusively for Indeni, being a government entity, but it was opened up. So anyone can apply to Tazama, and if Tazamas, they have space and they want things to be brought in, anyone can apply, any company. So, but you see, Indeni did not have the capacity to do so. It took time for Indeni to get there. First, we needed to do our own restructuring, where we need to collect who is going to be the managing director, who is going to be what, and all those relevant stuff to work in an OMC. And then after that, we had to do our strategic plan. What are we going to do in the next 3 years as we settle? So we had to do all those things until we arrived at a position now we are ready. And one of the other things also which we had to do is to start cleaning those tanks, particularly for diesel, because we knew that we don't have the capacity to bring in petrol. But if government gives us access to the pipeline, it will be easier for us. So we started cleaning the tanks which we are using for high sulfur diesel. And some of the tanks were storing the commingled stuff. So we also now started cleaning up those things. But all this still required money. We never got operation money from the government. After government paid the redundancy, that was it. So now Indeni had to swim on its own. I mean, it's a very difficult process where, for a company to thrive, it has to be two important aspects of business. One is the financial capital. The second is human capital. These two, when combined, then you can say you have a business. You can have financial capital, but if you don't have the human capital, you'll not do business. You can have human capital, but you don't have financial capital, it will be difficult to start. So what we had at Indeni was human capital. Cut a long story short, so that's more like the background. Where are we now? Now, when we started, of course, we knew we didn't have money. So we started applying to the government to give us space to use the pipeline. We don't have the monopoly over the pipeline. That's preserve of Tazama and the Ministry of Energy. And Indeni is not under the Ministry of Energy. Indeni is under IDC, Industrial Development Corporation. So we were trying to do that. Cut a long story short, until this year, in April, May, we were given access to the pipeline. And because we didn't have money, we had access to the pipeline. We had to find a partner who we can go with, who will put in money, and we just get a small portion of money for our operation. So that's what we did. We found a partner, and we have to get approval from government. With who do we go with in? Because we can't just find the energy man Jack and say we are going in with this one. We have to go through the process of government selecting Zambia procurement, what you call authority, to allow us to go in. And whilst we are doing that waiting, we also participated in a tender with one of the big mines in Solwezi. We were a few among the companies selected. Indeni was selected to start providing a diesel to this mine in Solwezi. Of course, we didn't have the money. Again, we had to go and find a partner. I think for me, the success of Indeni now is to participate in that tender at a very critical time without even financial capital, but selling the space we want and going in with a partner, finding another partner. Or again, we had to go through the Zambia Procurement Authority, again, which is it's a good thing to have it, but also when you are participating in things like mines who have got deadline, and then you apply to Zambia Public Procurement Authority, they have got their own procedures. We almost lost that tender because of the procedures. And it took time for the ZPPA to get back to us. By then, we are remaining with a very short period of time to deliver. First, to access the fuel, who we are going to go in. and we say we just delivered just on the dot, we had to make a loss on the first few trucks we were making because we needed it to be there. So that was a success, and I'm very happy with the way management worked out. Of course, the board was also getting heavily involved trying to push management that this is our first sale. So our first sale as Indeni, though it came at a loss, was with the mines. By and by, we did well. When that contract ended, I'm glad to say the mine also have renewed our contract just recently, and they have even increased the volumes we've been given because we pushed ourselves. I think I give credit to management for how they worked on that end. In the meantime, we also in May, June, our fuel finally arrived through the pipeline. Again, because we didn't put in money, most of that money would go to the partner because they put in all the financial costs. All we had was the access to the pipeline. And I can say up to now, maybe over 50% of the diesel on the market is coming from Indeni. So it's a start, it's a long journey, and basically that's what we are. I hope I've brought our listeners to speed.
Yeah.
And I've explained and I've said where we are. Now, the question which will come to say, I think you said in the preamble where we are promised cheap diesel.
Before we get to cheap diesel, the rationale, obviously, of changing the model of doing business as Indeni was that fuel definitely was, you will cut down on cost, especially transportation, which obviously will actually eventually make fuel on the market slightly cheaper. People have not seen that, and they are questioning government to say you promised cheaper fuel, and your promise was based on the fact that there were middlemen in between. You needed to get rid of that, and once you get rid of that, you will definitely see the effect of that in lower prices. That unfortunately has not come to fruition, and people are asking, why not?
I think it's a good question you have asked, and we need to look at the whole process. Is there cheap diesel on the market as compared to if we were depending on the commingled stuff? I would say yes. In comparison, as in economy, we do comparisons. Yes, we may say it's still expensive, but I could still tell you that the alternative could have been worse than where we are. First, there are factors which we have no control over. You know, the two major inputs in our having cheap fuel still, the cost of where we are getting it at the world market for petroleum products, where we are getting it from, what is the current cost? And then secondly, the other thing which moves the price is the dollar, the exchange rate. So these two things have never been the same. So you see, what could have happened now? We could have been buying fuel, say petrol, diesel, kerosene, and jet fuel, the way we are buying, at the current world market price, which is higher than previously. And then we are going to add on the commingling it, and also the traders we are getting from. You will not go to a refinery, which will give you a commingled stuff. The refinery will process and finish petrol and say, here is finished petrol. So somebody has to buy that. And then when you do that, the way we were doing it, then you go to another person, or can you add my petrol and my diesel and my jet fuel and my kerosene to be one product? So remember, we could have gone to the refinery and buy that. And then now we go to somebody who put it together as one thing, one item, so that it is pushed in the pipeline. So that also could have been a cost. And then it comes through the pipeline. And then now we could also have now the cost at Indeni of running the plant to again separate them back. Now, if we look at the price for electricity now, then all those costs could be put together, and then the consumers will have to pay all those. The price from the refinery, the price at commingling it, the price of putting it in the pipeline, the price of separating it back to where it was, and all those costs associated with that. The price, Zach, could not have been the way it is now. What have we gotten rid of now? We have gotten rid of the price of putting it together as one and put it. And we have gotten rid of the price of separating it back. Because remember, even if we were using Indeni, the price from the refinery, we still could have been paying the way we have been paying now. Unless you tell me that, unless somebody says, no, we were getting something which is just extracted from the sea, and then it's pushed, but we were getting something which is processed. So in a sense now where we are, we have gotten rid of the price of making it into one and the price of getting it back into separate thing. That price is gone because we could have been adding up now. So in a sense, yes, because things have gone up, the dollar has gone up, so we can say, oh, we said, but strictly speaking, when you look at it, it could have been worse than the way it is now. Yes, the price is high. I'm not saying it's low, but I'm saying comparatively, it could have been bad than where we are.
So then, what remains of the refinery plant?
So you see, the refinery plant is there. Now, at the moment at Indeni, what we have are those tanks. And I can say we have the biggest tank farm at Indeni because we have got all those tanks we were using. And now, in addition, we've got those tanks which we were using to store the commingled stuff. Now they have been cleaned up and they can store finished diesel. And I have to add that even that commingled stuff, you see, it's like, it's not well sold in the market. And the people who do that are those opportunists. You know, when there is a crisis, there are opportunists who make use of the crisis to make money. So when we were doing that, we were paying those who were doing it, who source it. We are not using our money. People who source it and we pay them, the traders. They say, oh, here's an opportunity for me to make money. I'll source for you diesel, I'll source for you petrol, I'll source for you this, and I'll commingle it. And you pay me for doing that. So there are also that hidden costs. Now, in the dispensation where we are, where this government has said there are no subsidies, so fuel could have been at a higher price than we see it if we continued with the modus operandi at that point.
So with the current setup of Indeni, are you assuring us that we will not by any chance experience fuel shortages in this country?
I think that's what we have seen. Look, we have never had a fuel shortage in this country, which is prolonged for over a week. You see, right now, Indeni still is in the process. We have not completed the process. What is the process? I tell you that one of the things we don't have at Indeni is financial capital. And so far now, what we are doing in the recent past, with the help of our parent company, IDC, we are talking to one of the refineries. Now, as Indeni and IDC, we are talking to the refinery themselves, not going through middle people. Like right now at Indeni, as of today, we don't have money. So the diesel we are bringing, we have a partner who is buying and using our access to the pipeline. They take advantage of our space. So we are getting some money because we don't have our own money to buy. So somebody's buying and they use our space, then they give us a percentage so that we build up our own capacity. And of course, we can't push it to government to give us money. Government has a lot of challenges now. So Indeni, we have to think outside the box.
So you still have middlemen after all?
Yes, we still have a middleman. We can't say middleman because this is a partnership. This is a partnership.
Right.
The only thing is, you see, when those people bring in the money, and remember the person who's dictating the price, it's not them. It's
The market.
ERB. It's
Oh,
ERB.
yeah.
Remember, every month they are changing the prices. So the partner we are in with for now, they will not come and say, I want to sell at this product, at this price. No. The price now is being determined by ERB. And ERB is looking at two major things. The exchange rate, remember when the ERB are talking about, there's a small slight increase sometimes when the kwacha has performed well. And when the kwacha performs badly, the price goes up. So there is that price, which ERB looks at, the price of the kwacha, or the price of the dollar, I mean. And there is also the price of the petroleum product itself as a finished product. Now, the company we are in partnership with, and we are just doing transactional partnership. It's not that for every time we are going to be going through with this partner. No, it's just a transaction. At this particular time, we are with this partner. Again, when we are given access to the pipeline, we'll go on the market and look who is going to give us a good leverage, and then we'll go with them. So the partner, we haven't signed like a long-term contract that, Indeni is in partnership with this company we are in with. No, we are just going with them at this particular time. They are the one who came favorite, and going through the government procurement procedures and the security assessments, we find that this is a good company. So we have agreed with them. Next time we have access to the pipeline, again we'll go and apply to ZPPA. They'll allow us, we'll advertise. When we select one, again we go back to ZPPA. We have selected this, then government trying to assess the company, all the parameters they look at. Are we safe? And we this company clean and whatever. Again, we have to wait for that, and government say, remember, we are not just a free company that we can do things on. So we are a government entity. And like our colleagues, you see, like when we participated into that contract, I was saying, which we have now with one of the companies, the mining houses, we can say, well, look, when we agreed, our friends in a day, they can make decision. It took us over 6 weeks for us now to get a go-ahead from ZPPA.
The bureaucracy.
Whilst our colleagues in business, they got the contract, they signed the contract, and they started working. We signed the contract, and now we started waiting for ZPPA to give us a go-ahead. Say, okay, now you can go in with this one. And that took us 6 weeks. And we had, I remember at that point, we remained with 2 weeks when we were allowed to do that. And the mine, and we said, whatever it costs, we need to do this. I remember flying to Ndola. I called the executive guys at Indeni, the management team, and I said, whatever happens, we have to deliver. Even if it's getting fuel from hell, we have to go there and get it. I remember I used that word and I apologized. I said, even if it means us getting fuel from wherever, we have to do it. We would not afford to lose this. Then we are not going to have. But thank God, it's something which has passed. We delivered. And we were even given a contract was renewed with a little bit more volumes to sell to the mines. And now we have started making a small markup, a small profit on what we are doing with the mines. The first time we did, almost we were at zero, because we agreed a price. By the time we were finishing our process, the price for the things have gone up. I mean, those are the challenges we have when you're a government entity. You have to go through and under the president, I heard the president sometimes lamenting of the bureaucracy in government. Coming from a private sector for him. And then he said, oh, Mr. President, you can't do this. He was saying, oh, because here we have to do the procedures are like this. Government procedures are like this. I mean, we have to abide by government procedures because we're a public company.
Absolutely.
Public assets must be protected.
But I heard you often say, the moment we have access to the pipeline, what's the procedure like in terms of having access to the pipeline? And are at times when you can have access and you're running out on fuel, I mean, don't you think you would be inconvenienced if the issue is as and when you can have access?
Yeah, you see, the issue, even if we are a government, remember, Tazama is a government entity, and Indeni is a government entity. But the current position is, Indeni is not guaranteed that when we want and say, oh, our tanks are running empty, give us space. No, because it's open to the public.
Yeah, so you're not the only ones.
No, we are not the only ones. So we have to compete for space. Now, we are trying to lobby government to say, well, look, at least in a quarter, even give us two times
access.
To have access. So from the time we started, Indeni has just been given one. This one I talked about. All this time, it's other companies which are
you must have quite substantive storage, no?
We have substantive storage, but you see the capacity, we don't have money. And the other thing I have to mention here for the listeners, it will surprise you. You see, those tanks, they always need to have dead stock. You don't run the tank up to the end. Like right now, because we were cleaning them, we needed everything to go out so that they are clean. Particularly because what was there was about the high sulfur diesel.
Yeah.
Now here we live on low sulfur diesel. So now, once those tanks are clean, we need now first to purchase a dead stock. I don't know how many cubic meters. Now, it means that dead stock should always be there. And in putting that, it will not be less than $500,000 to get that dead stock, which means you invest in the dead stock, which is there. You get money and put it in there, seated there. Then you say, now let's look for money to now start feeding in the tanks. And like I said, we don't have that money. Even now, we are not using our tanks. That should be made clear, because we don't have money to invest into the dead stock, which where you buy diesel, you put it there that it will never go below this.
The dead stock level.
Yeah. So now that dead stock, we need investment. So if we have, say, if all the tanks we have, we commit, like say, 5 tanks, and each tank is needs about $500,000, then we are saying we need $2.5 million to buy dead stock to just invest in there. Then now we start using those tanks. Now, I can say here, we don't have that money as Indeni to invest into dead stock. So our tanks are empty. Even when we got the diesel we are using, we use the Tazama pipe, because those are transit tanks, where the tanks come, they are put in Tazama, and then we start drawing there to sell. We start drawing from Tazama to sell.
So you still pay rentals? No?
We are paying to Tazama. But in
for
the
storage,
meantime,
right?
Yes, for that period.
Yeah.
And they need to move quickly now. If we delay to get that stock out, it means we have delayed the usage of the pipe. So we need to get ours quickly up to the dead stock level of Tazama.
Yeah.
And then another person starts pushing.
They are on.
Then as when we go back to the queue. So now our position is what we are asking for, to have at least in a quarter when we have access to. But even then, if we had money to invest as Indeni into the dead stock, what would happen is we can have those pipelines. And by the way, there's a distance from Tazama to Indeni of about maybe 500 meters or that. So that tank needs to be cleaned. Now that tank has been cleaned, but why we cannot push the diesel into our tanks at Indeni? Because we don't have the dead stock in our tanks. Right. I hope I've made myself clear.
Yes, you have. But then what is government doing about making us have access to fuel, not only using Indeni, I mean, Tazama pipeline. I mean, there are plans to set up more pipelines, for example. I know that there was talk about setting up a pipeline from Namibia. There were talks of setting up a pipeline from Angola. How far are we how far have we gone with that?
You see, what I know is what you know on that one.
That's
I
all.
think the best person to answer that is somebody from the Ministry of Energy.
Energy, right.
What you know, you've heard, I've also heard that talk, and I've also heard that Indeni may be part of the shareholders,
Yeah.
in inverted commas, of such pipeline. And they want to make them a pipeline which has got its own. There's a pipeline for diesel, there's a pipeline for petrol, and these will have a bigger diameter, which means they will be bigger than the one we have, so they can pump quite a lot at a time. So that's what we have heard. So what you know is what I know.
But you've, throughout our conversation, you've kept talking about diesel all the time. I mean, is Indeni bringing in petrol as well?
You see, we're talking about diesel because diesel, there's a medium of transportation, which is the pipeline. For petrol, we need to have what do you call them? These tankers.
Yeah.
To bring them in, tanker trucks with tankers.
Yeah.
We know them.
You do that?
Yeah. So we don't have. So we can't buy petrol because we don't have a medium of bringing it in, and we don't have even where to store it. Like I've said, we need some dead stock. So we don't even have where to store it. And by the way, to compound the problem, we also need a loading gantry. We have a small loading gantry at Indeni, but if we have to go into this, a loading gantry is just when the loading into, say, tankers, when the petrol comes and then it loads into tankers. We have a small one. So if we started now, it's like it will be taking time for us to load one truck. Now, that was in the days of Tazama. Now, you see what used to happen when the crude is processed at Indeni, it is pushed back. Tazama will refuse that commingled stuff and pushes it into Indeni to process. Indeni will process and push it back to Tazama for loading because Indeni doesn't have the loading gantry. So it's that process. I'm sure you understand now. So the crude comes at Tazama. Tazama pushes it into the tanks at Indeni. Indeni starts loading. And in the meantime, Tazama is just seated waiting again for government. So two companies are just waiting. Now, in this dispensation, there is no space for Tazama to quite immediately, like now, Indeni gets their diesel out, there's another one pushing in the diesel. So we cannot go into petrol now. We don't have the capacity as Indeni.
You and as Indeni and IDC, like you earlier spoke about the fact that you are into negotiations with a refinery
in the Middle
Tell
East.
us more about that.
I think,
and what will that do to the price of fuel, for example?
There's a signed non-disclosure agreement at the moment between that refinery in the Middle East and IDC. Though yes, as part of the refining, as that part of the process, Indeni was part of it, going there to negotiate. MD and the staff from Indeni, they were part of the IDC team which went to the Middle East to negotiate. So that is agreed. And from our the working so far, things remaining equal as the way they are now, if that was to happen, diesel could come down to as low as between 26 to 28, between 26 and 28 per liter, if we went in through with that. And we were hoping if that came, because that would be like a quarter. So we are going to have a quarter where diesel is at that price, when Indeni has got access to that. But in the meantime, there's an NDA. So one of the things which will be true is that diesel will be cheaper. Why? Which I can say with authority, because we are going to remove the middleman on that. So whatever product comes in with Indeni from that refinery is Indeni and that refinery. And that refinery, actually, they have gone further to agree that, yes, they will wait. They will not ask Indeni to pay. They will give Indeni a credit period to say, as Indeni is selling that, they are paying them their money. Well, it's a good, in a sense, it's good for both Indeni and the consumers.
Okay.
And also, maybe for the, well, maybe, I don't know, they'll have a sale, the refinery, they'll have a sale. But we are hoping if government could give us access, we have already applied the papers to Ministry of Energy, that if government can allow us even a quarter, that this quarter is the pipeline is dedicated to Indeni, just for a trial. They see the diesel price, because definitely it will be far much cheaper because we are getting from the source. Now, the source we are getting, we are in partnership with now. They are also like traders in a way, though they have got their own refineries. But you see, when we need, they also use their money to pay, to buy. And then they use our space. That's Indeni. Then ERB will just treat it as they were. Now, if Indeni would come in, one of the other things which will happen is, if that worked out, ERB can have the price fixed for a quarter, for 3 months, if that happened.
Okay.
Because now we are going to be assured locked-in price in dollars with a refinery, which we are doing, say maybe for 3 months. Say, this is the money, and now it's just transportation. So if there will be adjustment, it will be very minimal, because the dollar price would have been locked in with for a period.
Yeah.
So that's what we are trying. And this, every good thing does not just happen. Unfortunately, the problem we have in this country, we want to plant maize today and tomorrow harvest. It takes time. Plant maize today, you have to weed, you have to water, you have to maintain until it grows, and then you process it. As this journey for what government decided on Indeni, it has taken long for us to even now arrive at the point where we can find a partner and participate. Remember, we need to continue paying salaries for the staff who was there. And for us as the board, it will be an indictment on us if a month passes. Well, in the early days of doing this, staff went for 3 months without their salaries. It happened. So
Did they understand?
Well, they understand. They understood at the time. They understood. I mean, we selected a management which understood. So, guys, this is where we are. We need to start making our own money. And so they stayed on. Now, what happened at that point? Remember, there was a dead stock in the pipeline. Now, to clean the pipeline, that dead stock has to be pushed to where? Now, that was a commingled staff. So they pushed it. There was a period, if you remember, sometime in July or somewhere, where Indeni was back to life, just to clean up that process. So government paid us in advance the processing fee and the money to work on the plant to make, because the plant stopped working in 2019 before this government came in. So 2019, that was the last the plant worked until this time around. So now we are at the point where we say, well, look, we have done most all the mechanical, the human capital we have to do this, where everything remaining equal. The only impediment we have is the dead stock, investment in the dead stock. If we have money to invest about 2.5 million or 2 million to invest into the dead stock, where we buy this diesel just to keep there, then it gives us now a leeway to say, let's stock. And remember, we have tankerage at Indeni. We have big tankerage. We can store diesel for over close to 2 months of what we have, the tanks we have. If we went to say, let's go into diesel, so we can buy diesel for 2 months and keep it there and agree the price with ERB. For the next 2 months, this will be the price of diesel. But one has to invest into the
dead stock first.
The dead stock.
What safety assurance do you have from Tazama with regards the fact that finished products are passing through that pipeline and finished product is ready for the market and anybody can do anything to the pipeline? But you as a client to Tazama, obviously you do have some safety assurance. Just share with us.
You see, we are not the only one in that field. And remember, there was a time when there was there was a leakage on the pipeline. I think you read that, maybe even your news covered that.
Yes.
And then ERB and Tazama, they went to Tanzania, they met the authorities there, and whatever they agreed. But I'm just telling what you journalists reported.
Yeah.
So that's what we know. And look, so far, the historic part is what is our assurance. As at tomorrow, we just know that what we are doing, Tazama will play their part, and we'll play their part in our deal. Our part is to pay them. When they have done that, we have to pay them. Their part is to ensure that we deliver. And from past records, that's our assurance. As what they do tomorrow, we are not privy to that.
Right. Now, 3 years down the line, this is how long the government of the UPND has been in power. What would you look back and point out as major successes? Economically?
Yeah, I think...
Because I'm taking advantage of the fact that you're an economist, so...
Yeah, I think the challenge we have now is the same thing, is appreciating that investment also takes long to realize. Like I said, you cannot plant a seed today and harvest it tomorrow. So there's this despondent on the government, on the Zambian people, with the Zambian people, that this government is a failure.
Right. Yeah.
But first, let's look at the fundamentals, right? Let's look at it. Are the fundamentals, economic fundamentals, right? I say yes. And I say how? Tell us some. Number one, from the time immemorial, we have depended on copper. And one of the reasons we are having a difficult, even us at Indeni, is the price of the dollar. Now, our dollar inflows depended on our sales for copper. You agree with me? Even our exports. Let's just say our export, but our major export to bring in dollars is copper. Let's be fair to the UPND government. When they inherited government, how much copper were we selling? The big mines, Konkola, Mopani, FQM, Lumwana. Those are the ones which they are now. Now, for us to have dollar inflows, these mines should be producing big and selling big. Simple language.
Right.
Now, we strangled the mine. At the time, in 2021, you already know, before the election, during that time, QM, they were thinking of pulling out of the country. You know that.
Yes.
Because of the policies and the challenging investment. So they stopped into exploration. You know, mining is every day you're exploring which way is the copper route going.
Yeah.
You start doing that. Now, once you stop that, if you are going to exit the country, you stop doing that. Why are you doing it? So in that means what you are selling is just what is there now.
Yeah.
So for you to produce more, you have to always think, where do we go next? We are extracting here. Where do we extract next? Now, FQM stopped doing that. You know what happened at KCM?
Yeah.
KCM, we strung KCM, we put in a liquidator there. When you put something in liquidation, you are more like saying, we want to sell. Not much operation going in. We can say maybe KCM's reduced drastically, if not to zero. If they were selling, it's just to maintain also, not much. So we strangled our copper, our dollar in from FQM, from KCM. Same story with Mopani. Same story with Lumwana. They were also thinking of selling the mine. So now this government, let's give them a plus, please. Even if you are UPF, you don't like them, you are MDD, you are FDD, you are whatever. There are something. I wished we had the constitution position where political parties, there's something which should be sacred in the way we operate. This we do not touch. This you do not condemn. And for the PF, I'm not saying I'm condemning them. They made it difficult for the mining houses to continue. Always problems. This government has unlocked. They say whatever they catch. I don't know what they did. But one thing I heard the president would say, let's not sort problems in court. let's sort problem outside court. And they manage. But you see, every time there's a problem, the people who get and they don't want the process to stop are the lawyers. They are making. You have seen that cartoon where there's a cow. One is pulling the head, the other one is pulling the tail. In between, the other people are getting the milk from the cow. The lawyers are getting. Meanwhile, government is pulling this side, the mine is pulling this side, the lawyers are getting the milk. By the time you finish pulling the animal doesn't have milk. So that in itself is success. Whatever you may say, what will happen is that there will be inflows. And already we have seen what has happened. Kitwe City Council, they have benefited twice. I've seen it on ZNBC News. When Mopani, the deal was done quickly, the new owners, the majority shareholders in Mopani, they even paid money to pay the debts. And one of the beneficiaries is the local authority, Kitwe City Council. And I remember seeing on TV those days, a few months ago, that City Council used that money to pay all the retirees. Now, that is poverty reduction. I don't know how you define poverty reduction. Also means when I owe you, I don't pay you, causing you to go into poverty. When I pay you, I'm reducing poverty in your home. That reduced poverty in that clique of people who got the money. That is a plus. And then recently, KCM released the money. And again, Kitwe City Council got some money. I remember seeing the town clerk a few weeks ago, is saying that since we have already, that's what he said. I'm paraphrasing, not word for word.
That's right.
He said, since now we paid all the retirees, this money we have, we are going to improve our salary to people in our municipality area. Now, that is good. This government has done that. Sometimes, just sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes you just have to give credit where it's due. Sometimes, not all the times, because depending on your orientation in thinking, we are saying, and the way you look at things, we are saying we are not expecting you to say everything nice every time, but sometimes, for me, the mining, I can take 100%. If we continued in court at KCM, the lawyers would be enjoying. But now let the Zambian people have. Is it yesterday or the other day I heard that now even other suppliers have started getting paid. They haven't started giving them contracts to supply, but at least they are giving them what they were owed. That's good. That's poverty reduction. You owe me, you pay me, you have reduced the poverty in my house. That's a good plus. Let's give credit where it is due. And then, so on the mine, let's agree. For once, let's just agree. Even your callers, let's agree for the mines. And then what is going to do, once these mines are now started production and they are exporting, and we see the inflow of dollars, they are going to have an effect on the dollar.
And that's where the question is right there. When copper is exported, influx of the dollar is the question. Does it really come back to Zambia? Because that's the problem that our listeners have, is that when foreigners have invested their money, they always, once they sell, their money is invested abroad, in their back home. And the issue is, what measures has government put in place to ensure that whatever it is that is sold out in terms of copper, once copper is sold out, the proceeds are banked locally?
I think that what you have said is correct. Sometimes it happens like that,
right?
Maybe most of the time when you don't look at it. But let's say even in this direst condition of that kind, that there's nothing government has done, but the mines sell copper in dollars, and they have to pay the workers, they have to pay the taxes. At the point of paying the taxes, they have to buy fuel. In Zambia, certain things, they have to have them in here. They have to sell those dollars they get. So they bring them. Okay, let's argue here, the big chunk, they keep outside, but there's some trickle. Now, if we say, an example, KCM now, we say, will employ 2,000 plus and Mopani. Now, the dollar will indirectly come through those people they have employed. They will pay them kwacha. So they will bring their dollars at the Bank of Zambia to buy the kwacha and say, there will be some taxes. They will bring their money at the Bank of Zambia, buy kwacha, and pay the taxes. They will pay for other goods and services for local suppliers. They will pay them in kwacha or in dollars, but the dollars have to come in. I may say supply to KCM and I've got a dollar account, but they will not get, they will pay me through their dollars which are kept here. Because if they have to pay me through their dollars which are kept in New York or London, it will be expensive to just pay me my $5,000 for thing. It will be expensive for them. So they maintain some of that before even talking about other things. Then there's also another tax which they pay. They pay it in kwacha, mineral royalty tax. So the government doesn't charge in dollars. So they'll bring, even if they're charged in dollars, they'll bring their dollars in Zambia and pay government the mineral royalty tax. And the more production they do, the higher the mineral royalty tax. I think they steal some dollars which is trickled in. But what this government has done is like there's a statutory instrument which the Minister of Finance signed. I don't know the number. But the spirit of that statutory instrument is that when you export, you bring your proceeds in Zambia. That's new. I'm sure it would have started in January.
Yeah.
And then you start doing whatever, buying your equipment or whatever from the money which is here. Now, one would hope with that new statutory instrument, there will be a little bit more extra inflow of dollars apart from what they bring in to pay the demands on them in our economy. I think we've done that.
Yeah.
The next thing we see, you see, there is money going into rural areas. Us who complain so much are those of us in town. But sometimes you see on social media, oh, there's a school in this area, and you're watching TV, places which have never seen a clinic, a maternity, and now when government releases that money, it's in circulation. It's a plus, where unlike where money is restricted. And people should work for that money, not the way we had, where money was being thrown out like confetti. You know, confetti, that thing when there's a wedding and you start throwing it just like that.
Yeah.
And that's how money was being thrown, where people don't work. They can even burn a kwacha. They are boasting there. They are hitting money with a golf stick and that kind of thing. That's what we used to see on social media. We can't go back to those days. Let's come to a point. And then the other thing which this government has achieved, let's give credit where it's due, just to restructure the debt. We were a junk country. And we have to compare at this point. I'm sorry to say it to the listeners, particularly those who support the Patriotic Front. The Patriotic Front inherited a wonderful, a very good economy. Everything was up. They were even able to go to the money market, not bilateral loans, to go on the market. The credit rating was good. That's what they inherited. Their friends, even if they talk loud about their friends, they inherited a junk country where no one could lend you money. And through the process of negotiating, and the debt is being forgiven, okay, not being forgiven, but stretched.
But also contracting more. This government is contracting more debt.
It's contracting. Which government?
This the UPND government.
Economically,
except the in the name of it's cheaper loan.
But all the governments do that from time immemorial.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have been fair for us to say this government should not contract, because that's how we have survived.
But also, and I think there is a law attached that all contracted debt must first of all be presented to Parliament for approval. And I think this government was a critic of the previous government that they never did that, and this government isn't doing that either.
No, I don't think it's fair on that one. Why I say so is it last week I was seeing a debate in Parliament and the person who was talking was the MP for Nkana, Mr. Mpundu. I think it's Mr. Mpundu.
Yes.
He was talking about, they were debating on the loan. I said, why are you coming to us? We have so much copper. You are coming to us to approve that you go and get a loan. When we have so much copper, when we have so much this. On that point, I must say, let's say you're a journalist. Let's be fair. I think that at least I've heard once. I'm not supporting that.
Let me take you to yesterday, as you were celebrating, as the UPND government was celebrating 3 years in government. The Patriotic Front, to the president of the Patriotic Front in His Excellency Edgar Chagwa Lungu, the former Republican president, says that my PF government, and I quote, my PF government did better than UPND in 3 years, as he brags. And he says that he left the presidency stage while people were clapping, as the economy was far much better than today. Would you agree?
No, I don't agree with him. 100% I don't agree. I don't agree.
Why not?
He left us in dire need, apart from the PF cadres. Some of us who are not PF, not political, I don't agree with him. I think he is bragging because, look, he didn't have, imagine if we had the PF and we have this drought, what would have happened?
And I think he's bragging more, is concentrated more on the fact that prices of commodities were slightly lower than what they are today. And I'll pick out what he himself wrote, and I'll make comparisons. And I think that it's important that we do so. As you all may recall, I quote, at the time of my handover in 2021, I left a 25 kg bag of mealie meal priced between 90 and 120 kwacha. Today, a 25 kg bag of mealie meal costs between 340 and 460 kwacha, depending on the place. The price of fuel was at 17, but is now unstable at 33.47 kwacha. In 2021, I remember that a 50 kg bag of fertilizer was at 600. Today, the same bag of fertilizer is costing 1,200 kwacha. During my time, a 2 kg packet of sugar was at 45. Today, the same packet of sugar is selling above 75. You can add more items and do a better comparison yourselves. End of quote. He uses numbers to compare.
Okay. Yeah, I think professionally I'm an accountant and an economist, and I like numbers.
Right.
Okay, at the time the PF took over, let's go back and compare. Why doesn't he compare with what he inherited? And he inherited a good economy. Where did he leave it? His friend inherited a junk economy, and you can't compare. Honestly, you can't. If you're being fair, you can't. He left a junk economy. He inherited a good economy. And I don't want to be political. Those who support Mr. Edgar Lungu, it's unfortunate that, look, we stop thinking, because he can't brag that. How much did he leave us?
And he's riding on this for his comeback. He's riding on these numbers for his comeback.
You see, the coming back is subject to the Zambian people, but facts should be put correctly.
Right.
I can't force Zambian people to say, I've got a vote, you have got a vote, everyone, the gentleman who was in the studio has a vote. It's the Zambian people to say. But look, how can he come back? We are 20 million of us. Surely, do we say that in Zambia only 2 people qualify to be president? He has done his 7 years, for goodness sake. If the PF are being fair to us, give us somebody. Fortunately not, honestly not Mr. Lungu. He has done his 7 years. We are 20 million of us, all of us who qualify to be presidents. And what we had under Mr. Lungu, for us who didn't support the PF, it was difficult even to take a relative who come to visit you, to take them to the city center. If you are wearing red, we can't go back to those days. Mr. Lungu should give us a break. We are 20 million of us. He has no monopoly over this country.
There are so many. And look, to be fair to the PF, they had 7 candidates who applied to take over from Mr. Lungu. Why can't they give us one of them? There was Mr. GBM, Mr. Kambwiri, Mr.
Maosamba.
Mr. Mao Sampa, who is a banker and an economist. There was another gentleman
Mr.
who
Mondubile.
is a lawyer, but there's another gentleman from my
Kafwaya.
profession. Yeah, I
Yes.
think that gentleman is an accountant.
Yes.
For goodness sake, the PF has got a lot of people. Why should it be only one person to come back? We have already known him 7 years. He can't brag. He can't brag, for goodness sake. He left it worse. They used the money with the environment which they left and borrowed big. I mean, I read somewhere where, I think it's on social media, where somebody says, it's like you go to drink with somebody, this guy is ordering, and you are clapping for him, and then at the time of payment, he goes and he leaves you with a debt. Meanwhile, you are clapping for him. That's what happened. They borrow, they don't pay. Somebody comes, start washing up the debt they left, and you are still clapping for them. For goodness sake, this one, it would be worse. If they inherited a good economy and they left it like that, even they brag. Now, this time the economy is just growing. It takes time to build. And then they find it in that. And I also saw another on social media, another point where Mr. Lungu was saying, he has to come back and protect his family. Things are being grabbed from my family. I need to come back and protect my family. He's not coming back for us, for you and me. He's coming back for his family. And I can't start talking about that.
Yeah.
I don't qualify.
Well,
It's a case in court. I don't qualify. But definitely, PF should give us another person to compete with the President Church if he's standing in 2026. PF should give us another candidate, a good alternative, but definitely not Mr. Lungu. We are 20 million of us. Surely, do we just have 2 people can be president out of 20 million? Mr. President Hakainde Hichilema, of course, he has got 5 terms, another 5, but constitutionally is allowed. If he wants
2
to
terms,
stand, is
Yeah.
allowed. But Mr. Lungu's case is in court. We don't know the rule. But even if is entitled to stand, but we have already seen what he can do. A good economy, you just crash it. All these programs, the MMD left, even the rebasing of the Kwacha, well, that was an MMD program. I keep saying this when I go on radio. That was because I heard Dr. Fundanga, when he was Bank of Zambia governor, talking on Let the People Talk on Radio Phoenix. He said, we are going to rebase. That's why he used a 50,000 Kwacha note. He said, if you see a 50,000 Kwacha note, we are writing a 50 in big numbers, figures, then the 1,000, small zeros. Why? Because we want people to start getting it, because very soon we are going to remove the zeros. That was an MMD program they inherited. If you remember, by the time the MMD, our credit rating was very high, and the MMD wanted to plan properly to borrow for what? They had a program. But before they could do all that, we voted them out. And I'm just praying that the UPND is not voted out. Why? Let them finish what they have started, because that's fundamentals we have. And if he brags, let's say, if he brags about a bag of meal, the bag of meal was subsidized, for goodness sake. Even petrol was subsidized. And the Minister of Finance has been very categorical to say they still owe, this government has still inherited a money which is supposed to be paid for fuel. I can't be cheating you. If chicken and chips is 20 kwacha, I go and bring it for you and say, buy it from me at 15 kwacha. I tell the owners of chicken and chips, say, I'll pay 5 kwacha, and you clap for me. We have to face the reality. And for me, what has happened in this government is to say, let's subsidize production. When I grow a bag of milling, I'm a peasant farmer, a small-scale farmer.
Right.
If I grow maize with all it costs, and then the price is dwarfed, a 60 kwacha bag, and then you start subsidizing consumption. Now, this government, for me, what it has done to encourage production is to subsidize farming, so that I can sell a bag of mealie meal at a price which is exciting to me. whereby I can grow more again, not where I can eat and government is subsidizing. For goodness sake, what that government did is subsidy, particularly on fuel. I'm at Indeni. I know they were subsidizing and they left, just like that example of what I read on social media. We drank the chihuku, and at a time of paying, the person who was ordering for us even leaves. But we still want to say this person should come back, so that where is he going to get the money now? Because this government, if say we have by-election today, the investment which is there now, it will not attract the money they had then. They had a lot of money because of what the MMD lost. And for goodness sake, let's all agree that that was borrowed money. No one can dispute that. And we are being subsidized. We are not paying the price of the product. The MMD proved that they were subsidized because they could also build up resources and manage the economy in a way that our credit rating were high, economically speaking. Please, Mr. Lu should give us a break. We are 20 million of us. There are already 7 guys in PF who are presidential materials. And if the PF can do us a favor, let them pick from that. And then he competes with President HH. So that I can say. Not bragging for things which are just horse there. It's air. It's bragging about air. Because us who can read behind, I mean, I'm an accountant professionally, and I'm an economist. I also practice both. I know what was happening. That economy really was just of it. How do you get money in an economy like that, and you give people who are sleeping on money? People are burning money. Cadres bringing in vehicle with one number plate, ECL 2021. How many vehicles are the same number plate? This is where we are coming from. Mr. Lungu should not take us back on Matololo. What is Matololo? The wilderness. It shouldn't take us in the wilderness where people were being killed. We are the student. Okay, let's say the others were killed because of politics. We are the student who was studying at the University of Zambia in our room. And the police killed that person. And up to now, we have never, maybe you journalists have heard which police are in custody for killing that person. Us on the street, 0. Should we go back to those dark days? No. Please, not Mr. Lungu. Maybe GBM, Mr. Kambwiri also paid, Wire paid, Mr. Mundubile paid, and there are others who paid. They should choose from that so that we can have a selection. Us who are not so much into these things. So we have a selection.
A variety. Thank you. Mr. Watson Lumba is Indeni Petroleum Board Chairperson and an economist, is my guest this morning on the burning issue. And now I'll take phone calls because obviously you can now interact with our guest. I will also be taking care of messages that are on Facebook already. Let's take this call. Your headsets, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. And how are you?
I'm okay. You are talking to Mr. Chilonda.
Mr. Chilonda, always a pleasure hearing from you. Please go ahead.
Comrade, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chilonda.
You know, the fact and the truth is that the UPND have done 50% in 3 years. Yeah, we are waiting another 50% to be done. One, restoration of peace. No cataclysm, no pangas. Which we were witnessing. A police were called the name of Kanyangu, Tokam Road. Tokam Njira. A car that would have put spend the material for the ruling party at dashboard at the road block. The police will say, I'm coming with a jacket and tie. So that was the knowledge. Police was at no say. So now today, the police have got power. In the ruling party, if you are done wrong, you will be arrested. So that is what we are talking. Secondly, as the UPNG, what we need to do, supply, fertilizer, and time. Wait on the economy. People, they vote change because what they want is to make life easier for them. And these are some people from compound. who are eating once a day need to work, and especially not limiting the subs on agriculture input and fuel. The monthly review of fuel and agriculture, it has brought a problem. I don't know. We have the advisors to the president. I think some of these advisors, they're not advising the truth. So for us, we don't want to destroy this party. We don't want to see the people starting complaining. It's a new marriage. And the marriage which have 3 years, people have continue complaining. We don't want. So that is the point. Now, work on economy. Issue what we are talking about. Shouldn't do. The people, the person you love, tell them the truth. Don't praise him for nothing. We have to talk about the truth, especially our masters as the people. These people who voted this party into power. These are the bosses. When you are telling lies, it's not good. Let us tell the truth. That let us do this. Let us do this. If the moderator goes out there, ask 20 people, nanga bomba the branch. Oh, not your welcome, but so how many people think of the voter? How many people say Zilipino? So this is how we know we calculate. I think thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chilonda, for that. 0955 221515 is the number they are calling us on. Our guest is Mr. Watson Lumba, who is Indeni Petroleum Board Chairperson and an economist. And we are discussing quite a lot of issues surrounding. We did discuss a lot of issues surrounding Indeni and where we are, where it's coming from, and also we have discussed quite a lot around the economy and how it's performing. Good morning. We lost that one. Let me take a text on Facebook. Obriano Chitiku. Obriano Chitiku on Facebook says, good morning, Mr. Zach and Mr. Lumba. If there are people who are not good in leading the nation, are the so-called economists. I'm saying this because the current president is an economist, but he has totally failed to govern this country economically. My question is, what's your comment on the issue of high cost of living in this new Dawn government? Let me give you another one. Eugene Chembe says, Bwana, every politician is there to protect his or her interest. Even the current guys are just protecting their own interest. I think this is a response to when you said Mr. Lungu is coming back to protect his family, as he stated. Maxwell X says, Mr. Chair, does it mean that if ECL contests in 2026, he automatically becomes president of this country? What is this Lungu phobia that you guys in UPND are having? Lungu is a Zambian. If he wants to contest as a president, that's entirely up to him and not you, sir. Right? Let me, would you like to respond, or let me give you one more call? Good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay, just ensure that you switch off your radio before you call us, and so that we avoid getting that feedback. But I will still go ahead and take another call on 0955 221515. Good morning.
Mwaka Bwanji.
Tauka Mwaka Bwanji.
Tauka Bueno. Guess Mwaka Bwanji.
Tauka Bueno Mwaka Bwanji.
Tauka Bueno. Mukamba na bamunyumbwe, batumina pa 15.
Bamunyumbwe.
Naitamini mfuno kamba kwa
pa 15 ni pa 15 miles hapo. Great. Yeah.
Tameni mfuno kamba ko. Mfuno kamba ko kuanga ko ziko mukuri ba UPND bamene bachita wanu. Baba na benzo campaign anzo kambati bakaleta free education ngaoti pass and party. One pamela nawe tunaona free education inabwera. Nenyami yazoni na mwana hapa apunzira sinile pia na kukuru any point kintu chikuza mimi naona baretana na development muminzi doing PF kwenzeri pe development muminzi so hapa development tiona yenzo ona kadaba marusa kama town but muminzi kwenzeri ibe but hapa konse iliko then na futi chinangu kuyanka bwino bantu bayanka bwino bantu badandaura kuri beja amene wenze kwati mu PF yako watu badandala talo setting bantu kanyanya batu babwa kumia nkaya ti bamwe mudandala ndane mukatundire mukariba ivo kuri bevo banti pankani vaunga tikamba unga wadura batu bakamba ata kuri be vintu bitabe bwino pena ngwatenga kasaka kaunga bakitunta pamutu ati kuri benjala so apa bantu bakamba tinjira iriko naye bapendi babome denjala iriko but tionerapo badetakoze denesi unga wonse uriko so asembe ni mu PF apa mune bakambira bagesi asembe ma province enango ndiye amene aona ze denesi asembe mwinango mu muribe so aine kwatu ni kugwembe muyende kugwembe konse kuja ze denesi riko bagura marodi bagireta CDF 7 so damene funo kambako mupitize manje question amene nao ni mozi ni pankani ya corruption nge kumeni funa banyangeko corruption itimvera ma MP ma minister ba upinda kuri bamene basaba corruption nishansha but bakamba kuti sibafuna kubakamba mazina chikwa bachitachana bachita protect the human rights ma question yakuti manje aba PF bamene banveka ba emechirengesa kuti bazinveka veve mikiani waye veve so machita protect chifukwa UPND nareta democracy niniziva iriko democracy manje aba benango waye banveka ndiye amene funa kuti nimvere
zikomo ba Munyumbwe. Yeah, I'll let you respond now. Yeah.
Okay. The questions here. First, the last one.
Yeah.
The main question is corruption.
Yeah.
Why are the ministers not being mentioned?
He sees everything okay, except the issue of corruption.
And he says,
why is it coming out selective?
Selective.
Yeah.
The ministers are not being mentioned.
Yes.
The others are being mentioned. This is a matter of law. I don't qualify. I eliminate Mr. Munyumbwe's position. I can't. I may not know why that is happening. But all I can say, if you are investigating somebody and you have already investigated somebody, the one you have investigated and you want to go and get what they got, you can mention. The others, you are still trying to find out the truth. It may find that maybe they were just reported wrongly. They didn't do. And the president has said, I've heard him several times, and even taking people to court, even though it's not happening, say, please investigate and come to a point whether there is people are ignoring those who are doing those things, where they get people before they finish the investigation or they start, even where the president, I've heard him several times say, even pitting people, denying bond or bail, please don't do that. But it's still happening. So somewhere in the system, but I can't say much on that one. Then there was the issue of lungophobia. I'm starting from down going up. I think Mr. Chilonda,
Chilonda, yes.
There was no question there.
No.
Okay, but there was something he said about monthly.
Let's work on the economy. He's emphasizing.
He says supply. He says the monthly review of fuel, they're causing thing. I think the idea of monthly review, there I can say because I'm in Indeni.
Yeah.
You see, it is, we need to recover the money. There's no subsidy. So unless we can have enough money where money can come in and we have a buffer of money, let's say go for free. So it's like, as you see it, you pay for it. Because we don't have money. We don't have a subsidy. If we do 3 months subsidy now, and in the mid, as the other crop is coming in off stock, and then the dollar has gone way, then you need to have money to cover up. And this government is saying there are no subsidies. That's a time for that. But the review, that's why if you heard me, it's like if Indeni is given access and supported financially, we can agree with that. And if we invest in our dead stock, we can keep money and say we can have enough money to cover up if there are turbulences or changes in the dollar exchange rate. But as long as we remain the way we are.
And we always thought you had fuel reserves, reserve tanks or reserves in almost every province. How true is that?
They are not reserves. There are storages where like you go and offload in Solwezi, and those who are in that area, they are picking from there.
Yeah. Why are we not doing that? Is it the same issue of you don't have capacity as
you don't have the capacity? Well, look, financially, Indeni doesn't have the capacity. Storage-wise, Indeni has capacity. like I've said,
because people are saying, why don't we stock up for more than 6 months, for example?
There's no place in Zambia where you can store for more than 6 months. We have not invested much. There is another tank farm in Kasupe, but that, from what we know as Indeni, that is still in the hands of government and the people who constructed that. It's like they haven't finished their discussion there. It seems they are old and it's not yet in the hands of government because there are issues. That could help. If we said then, it's one thing to have storage capacity. It's another thing to invest. Like I've already said, at Indeni, we need about 2.2 million plus to invest into the dead stock, which just remains in the tanks. So we don't have that money. So it will have to continue in this. And we need money. If the fuel has to be reviewed every time, we need to have some kind of a subsidy where we keep money aside that any turbulence in the dollar exchange in between can be covered. And then there is a gentleman who talked about, I think it's Mr. Obriano, or not?
Yeah.
There's a gentleman
Maxwell X.
who talked about longophobia,
yeah.
where we're having phobia. My position as an individual is to say, from my point, we have already seen the 7 years of Mr. Lungu, and I'm saying there are 20 million of us, and even in the PF itself, there is 7 people who came out that they want to be president. And we have seen Mr. Lungu, what he can do. We gave him 7 years, and we saw where we were and where he picked it up from. Why should we go back there? His time has come. There are other people in the PF, and I'm saying PF should give us other people to compete with President HH if he has got his constitutionally agreed position of another 5 years. It's not for him to say, if he wants to use that 5 years, he can do. The Constitution allows it. But if the Zambian people see that the 5 years we gave him was not good enough, it's for them to decide. On my part, I'm saying 7 years Mr. Lungu was there. He left us worse off than when we were with the MMD. He lost us. Now, if the situation is this bad now, and with that mentality the PF under Mr. Lungu had, where are we going to be? And there has been no time where Mr. Lungu has apologized to the Zambian people of what was going on. The people who died, the strange and Congolese. He comes to say he did 100% correct. That's what he's putting to us. And I'm saying it's somebody who buys us chibuku, orders, time to pay for that chibuku, he vanishes, he's out. And I'm saying, personally, I say, I would not go for that. There are 20 million of us. Zach, you also qualify to be a Zambian president. I also qualify. The gentleman who called here, he qualifies to be. There are 20 million of us. We have seen what 2 people can do, or the other one hasn't finished, but is doing it. And Zambian people have to decide. For those who feel economically the fundamentals are okay, we say let another 10 years of seeing the investment start now showing off what we have planted. Let the maize grow. And we also shouldn't start blaming so much of the current. There is a drought which has never been there. One of the things the drought has learned, it has made me know what a KVA is. It has made me know what an inventor is, how to connect a solar to a watt, at least have a solar panel which can give me some light. If it wasn't, at least it has not. No, a storm comes, it's very destructive, but also it clears the way. We have learned. Now we are talking, I'm a peasant farmer. I'm waiting for this government to start lending money. I want to invest into irrigation because my maize last year didn't even reach the flowering point. It all dried. We just had to chop it and give it to the animals. I also suffered much, but I still believe in the fundamentals, economic fundamentals, which are there. And say, let's give them space, just like the MMD fought for HIPIC.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the result starts coming for HIPIC. We got them out. Others come, inherit the HIPIC fruit, and they bring us back to the HIPIC levels. We become a highly indebted poor country again. And where it was even worse that we went to Kalova, we went to borrow on the money market. But credit, Mr. Lungu should give credit to the others, not demonizing them. They fought what he left. Could the PF have managed to do this? I 100% doubt.
Let me take some more calls. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Am I live on radio?
Yes, your name?
Okay. This is Mubanga.
Mubanga, could you please speak up? Where are you calling us from?
Okay. I'm calling from Abidjan, Lusaka.
Yes, please. Much better. Go ahead, Mubanga.
Okay. So what I just wanted to find out is the two things that is really making us Zambians not to really follow through and analyze issues critically. I just find it confusing when people make or compare the previous regime and the scenarios and the things that we used to go through compared to what we are going through right now. Take, for example, we have currently free education from this government, which wasn't there then. Nobody is appreciating. We have teachers and nurses that have been employed in this government. Those numbers were not met or employed in the previous government, where we had Mr. Lungu 7 years. Nothing close to that. And then there was Kaderism then. That is not there now. We see PF guys wearing green, UPND wearing red, whichever political party. We interact. That wasn't there then. Nobody's appreciating that. We have the CDF that has increased to good levels. Desks are being built or made. Schools are being built. But then nobody again is appreciating this. People used to have handouts. People used to sleep on money. Nobody is appreciating that that is no longer happening. People are just commenting to say this government has failed. But critically, even you, Zach, as an individual person in your own, I know you can't mention it on radio, but you have that level of understanding to say, guys, come on, look at where we were. We had 5 FM being stoned in the PF government, the same way that gentleman here is speaking right now. In that government, that station would have been broken into by now. The police is just next to you, but they couldn't do anything. That's just how lawlessness was in the previous government. I really thought to understand when people don't look at those two parameters and see where they are now, comparing them, the situation they were then in the previous government. I just don't subscribe to people saying HH has failed, this government has failed. It's like a talk of someone who's upset. But truth be told, there is greater improvement now. We have a better Zambia now. Let Mr. Lungu explain also where he came from, the MMD times where PF was coming from, compare where they left, and then use those two parameters to compare with UPND. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mubanga, for your contribution. And because of time, we should be winding up now. Of all that Mubanga has said in terms of we don't sit down and analyze things. And I think the fact that free education has been mentioned and the like, the critical issue that people always have is, and I think Zambians usually tell that the economy is doing well through either Shima and of course fuel or both. And in this case, it's both that are blinding them from seeing the free education, for example, because their eyes are focused on two fundamentals.
Yeah, so you want me
and it's critical, yes, and I think you do know that.
Mr. Mbanga, there is nothing he has said which there's no question.
Right.
He has just also said that what is my worry as well.
Yeah.
Why do people, well, look, I may not say agree 100% with Mr. Mbanga, but I agree with him on all what he has said, all those good things he has said. But I think the question still goes to say, well, look, we are so much in a hurry as Zambians. And the other thing, we don't want to work hard. we want everything to be easier for us, not to work for it, like the way money was being given to us. And that's what we want to promote. But you see, to grow the economy is grown by production. If we say we have just to say that, how do we get out of this? There's no other solution to get out of this. It's for us to work hard, to produce more. Last year, the previous year, I had a good yield. Then this year, this year, which we were attacked by the drought, I wanted to double or even triple. My investments was triple, and everything goes to West. Really, I can't cry to anyone. I was going to get a good yield. I can't blame this government. And somebody said that fertilizer in Mr. Lungu was 600 kwacha. I'm a peasant farmer. I never bought fertilizer at Visit. I was buying fuel, fertilizer at 1,000 kwacha. I didn't get that farming pack. So sometimes, like I said, just sometimes, not all the times, we have to be like Mr. Mubanga. Give credit where it's due. Sometimes appreciate what other people do as a country. But we can't go. Those who are doing that, who are saying that, I think they've got their perception different. We are not sleeping on money now. We have to work for money. There's no way when you have worked for money, you spread it like that. You burn a kwacha, which you have worked for. You show it, you put money there, and you're playing with your friends. That's how we wasted money. And I'm going to say, well, look, issues with Nshima and fuel, I've already explained with fuel where we were coming from. Look, we were subsidizing. And then it was the same way where we say, government tells the oil marketing company, we'll pay you so much. Go to any oil marketing company, not the small ones, but those who have got filling station. Ask them if the government doesn't owe them, and ask them from what period to what period are you owed. Maybe even this government owes them, I don't know. But the chickens have come home to roost. We have to pay. The chicken have come home to roost. Do you want more production? Don't subsidize. We were so used from UNIP time. We were so used to consumption being subsidized and not production. Me, as a peasant farmer, I like the price of maize because I'll grow and sell to FRIA and I'll get a return. I worked hard. If it wasn't for the drought, I could have been better off because I could have sold at a price where I recover. Previously, when I started farming, I grew an acre. This is a true story. You can laugh at me. And we had armyworms. I spent so much on armyworms to clear them, then fertilizer, and then weeding. On that small acreage, I spent about 5,000 kwacha. I harvested 15 bags. You can laugh at me. And those 15 bags, the price was 60 kwacha. If I sought to, so I could have gotten 9,000 kwacha after spending 5,000 kwacha. Now the price is attractive. Even now, I'm waiting for the bank I bank with to give me a loan for me to invest in irrigation because government has made that provision. I'm not giving up. I'm going to go ahead. I look at the price. It's encouraging production, not consumption. The reason, which is the biggest problem we had from UNIP, is subsidizing consumption for political reasons than production, because the people who vote are the consumers. So we want them to see that cheap. So if a bag is costing to produce it, it's costing 300 kwacha, we come and sell that bag as 150. Where is the other 150 going to come off? Government absorbs it as in Congole to the people who are doing as it now. Now that in Congole grows up, and then we go to the money market and borrow Eurobonds, and we even expand the problem. And now this government, unfortunately, they inherit that. And I can tell you that I think for me, like a State Council Sangwa said, the president who I can give him credit is Dr. Chiluba and Mr. HH, because of what they inherited and they are running through it. But also for me, to those two, I can add the President Mwanawasa. He also improved on it and he left a very good economy. He left at the time President Mwanawasa was dying. Things were moving on okay. Economically, the fundamentals were promoting us. Copper production went up because of the policies. And I'm hoping that in this government, with copper, it is going to pick up. Kansanshi has come back full time. KCM has come back. Mopani has come back. Even Luansha mine, Shaft 28, they are dewatering the thing. These are things, if God gives me breath, to see the fruits of this. That's my last word, to see the fruit. And if elections were there today, I will vote for this government. If today there was an election, I'll vote for HH. Because he has planted this. I want to see the fruit, just like I plant maize. I want to see it. I want to see Shaft 24 come to life. I want to see 3,000 people employed at Shaft 28. I want to see 2,000 people employed at Mopani. I want to see people employed at KCM. I want to see suppliers at KCM come back to life. My parents used to live in Chingola, in the outskirts of Chingola. And I want to see, for us, the first point of touch is Chingola. So I want to see these things which have been planted, these seeds which have been planted. If God gives me the grace to live on, I want to see the fruit of this. Chingola, Copper Belt, I grew up in Kitwe. I went to school in Kitwe, finished school in Kitwe. I want to see the mines coming back to the way they used to be. When you are walking into Nkana East, Nkana West, there was that life that in Kumain, beside Kumain, even Mufrira. I was born in Mufrira. I want to see going into Mufrira and saying there was Homboy Avenue, Jomo Kenyatta, all those places were looking nice. That's where we grew up. I want Mufrira and to come back to where it was with these things. But with Mr. Lungu, there was nothing I was looking forward to. He can brag now because he's not there. Why don't you one day bring Mr. Lungu? Where church, when he was in opposition, he was coming on radio, on phone. People were phoning him. Let Mr. Lungu come.
We're still making that effort.
Yeah, please let him also come.
But thank you very much for
Thank
coming.
you for having me.
Always a pleasure having you, Mr. Watson Lumba. He is the Indeni Petroleum Board Chairperson and an economist. He was our guest this morning on the burning issue. We will be back this week with the Thursday edition. Make sure you tune in. Thank you once again to our partner radio stations, Tuta FM and Spice FM, and those that participated and followed our conversation on Facebook. That is 5FM Radio Zambia. That conversation is still there. In case you've tuned in late, you can listen and or indeed watch the conversation again. So from all of us is take care of yourselves and more so of each other. Bye-bye.
Tune in next week for another edition of The Burning Issue, and thank you for your participation. Democracy and freedom of expression is about tolerating the views that you don't like from some